They thought leaving a note in an envelope would be enough. They were wrong. What they didn't know was that I'd been planning this moment for months, the moment I'd finally cut every tie that kept me hostage. If you've ever been the family ATM, stick around. By the end of this story, you'll see exactly how I walked away from years of financial abuse and never looked back. Hit that subscribe button if you're ready for some justice. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about boundaries, self-worth, and the power of saying enough. My name is Emma, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a financial analyst for a mid-sized firm in Denver. I've been living independently since I was 25, or at least that's what I told myself. The truth? I've been financially supporting my parents for the last 7 years while pretending I was building my own life. I was always the responsible one. You know the type. Straight A's in high school, scholarship to state university, graduated with honors, landed a solid job right out of college. My parents loved to brag about me at family gatherings, but only when it served them. The rest of the time, I was invisible unless they needed something, and they always needed something. It started small, a few $100s here and there when my dad's paycheck didn't stretch far enough. He had a gambling problem he refused to call a gambling problem. Just friendly poker nights that somehow left him short on the mortgage payment. My mom had what she called an appreciation for nice things, which was code for a shopping addiction she couldn't control. I was 25 when they asked me to co-sign their mortgage refinance. They were underwater, facing foreclosure, and I was the only one with decent credit. I remember sitting at their kitchen table, pen in hand, my mom crying softly while my dad promised this was temporary. Just until they got back on their feet. 7 years later, I'd made 84 consecutive mortgage payments, every single one. Then came the car loan when their old sedan finally died. My dad needed reliable transportation for work, he said. Could I just co-sign? They'd make the payments, of course. I signed. They made exactly 0 payments. The credit cards were the final straw I didn't know was breaking my back. My mom asked if she could be an authorized user on one of my cards for emergencies. Then it became 2 cards, then 3. $45,000 later, I was still making minimum payments on purchases I never made. Designer handbags, jewelry, furniture for their living room that I'd never even sat in. Meanwhile, my younger sister Madison was living her best life. 28 years old, Instagram influencer wannabe with 15,000 followers who hung on her every carefully curated post. She'd never paid a bill in her life that our parents didn't cover. Her college tuition? Paid. Her first apartment deposit? Paid. Her car? A graduation gift. When I graduated college, I got a card that said, "Congratulations," and a $20 bill. Madison was the golden child. Beautiful, charming, always knew how to work a room. I was the background character in her main character life, and somewhere along the way, I'd accepted that role. I told myself it was fine. I was the older sister. This was what responsible people did. But Madison's engagement changed everything. She met Trevor at some tech networking event. He was a startup founder, one of those guys who wore expensive sneakers with suits and talked about disruption like it was a religion. Within 6 months, they were engaged. Within 8 months, they were planning an $80,000 wedding. You want to guess who funded a chunk of that budget? The mortgage payments I made meant my parents had cash flow for other things, like contributing to Madison's dream wedding. The car payment I covered freed up their monthly budget. More money for centerpieces and custom cocktails. Those maxed-out credit cards I was slowly paying down? Some of those charges were bridesmaid dress shopping trips and engagement party decorations. I was funding my own exclusion, and I didn't even know it yet. Madison started pulling away about 3 months before the wedding. We'd never been super close, but we were cordial. We'd text about random things, grab lunch once a month, exchange memes. Then the texts slowed. Lunch plans got canceled. She stopped responding to my messages altogether. I noticed she was posting constantly about wedding planning, dress fittings, cake tastings, venue tours. Her friends were always tagged. I never was. When I asked my mom about it, she got defensive. "Madison's just busy," she said. "Planning a wedding is stressful. Don't take it personally." But I did take it personally when Save the Dates went out and I didn't get one. I watched friends from college post theirs on social media. I saw distant cousins I barely knew sharing photos of their fancy cardstock invitations. Mine never came. I brought it up casually at Sunday dinner. "Oh, I haven't gotten my save the date yet. Did you mail it to my apartment or my office?" My mom and Madison exchanged a look, the kind of look that speaks a whole conversation without words. "It's in the mail," Madison said, not meeting my eyes. "Mail's been slow lately." But it wasn't in the mail. I knew it wasn't. I could feel it in the way my mom changed the subject, in the way my dad suddenly became very interested in his phone, in the way Madison excused herself to take a call that didn't ring. 2 weeks later, I came home from work to find an envelope in my mailbox. Cream-colored, expensive cardstock. For a split second, my heart lifted. Finally. The invitation. I opened it standing right there in my apartment lobby. It wasn't an invitation. It was a note, handwritten on my mother's monogrammed stationery. "Emma, we've decided it's best if you don't attend Madison's wedding. Your presence might make things awkward. The venue has limited capacity. Hope you understand. We'll send photos. Love, Mom." I read it 3 times, standing there like an idiot, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. But they didn't. They stayed exactly as they were. Black ink on cream paper, the death certificate of whatever relationship I thought I had with my family. Your presence might make things awkward. Translation: You're an embarrassment. The venue has limited capacity. Translation: Everyone else is more important than you. Hope you understand. Translation: We don't actually care if you understand or not. I walked up to my apartment in a daze, set my bag down, put the note on my kitchen counter. And then I just stood there, staring at it, as 7 years of memories played in fast forward through my mind. Every mortgage payment I'd made while eating ramen for dinner. Every declined invitation to girls' trips because I couldn't afford it after covering my parents' car insurance. Every time I'd said yes when I wanted to scream no. Every birthday gift I'd bought Madison while she never remembered mine. Every family dinner where I'd sat quietly while they praised her accomplishments and forgot to ask about mine. I wasn't weak. I wasn't a doormat. I was just done. I didn't cry. I didn't call them. I didn't text Madison in all caps demanding an explanation. I opened my laptop. First, I logged into my mortgage account, scrolled through 7 years of payment history, 84 payments, not one made by my parents. Every single transaction traced back to my checking account. I took screenshots of everything. Then I pulled up the car loan, my name as primary borrower. My dad as co-signer, which was laughable because his credit was trash. The payment history showed exactly 3 payments total, all made by me. I documented it all. Finally, the credit cards. All 3 accounts with my parents as authorized users. I went through statements month by month, highlighting charges I didn't make, designer stores I'd never shopped at, restaurants in their neighborhood when I was working late, a furniture delivery to their address. It took 2 hours to document everything, but when I was done, I had a 47-page PDF of evidence. They thought I was weak because I always gave in. They were wrong. I wasn't weak. I was just done. I texted my friend Rachel, a corporate attorney who'd been telling me for years that my family was taking advantage of me. "Can you talk?" I typed. She called immediately. After I explained everything, the note, the wedding exclusion, the years of financial abuse I was finally naming for what it was, she was silent for a long moment. "Emma," she finally said, her voice careful, "what do you want to do?" "I want out," I said. "All the way out. Can I do that legally?" "Honey," she said, and I could hear her smiling, "you can do whatever you want. They've been committing fraud. You've got them by the balls. Tell me what I need to do." We spent the next hour on the phone while she walked me through my options. By the time we hung up, I had a plan. A 72-hour plan that would change everything. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't anger, though that was there too. It wasn't sadness, though that twisted in my chest alongside everything else. It was clarity. For the first time since I was 25 years old, I saw the situation exactly as it was. Not as I'd been telling myself it was, not as they'd convinced me it should be, but as it actually was. I was not a daughter. I was a resource, I was not a sister. I was an ATM with a heartbeat, and I was about to shut down for maintenance. Permanently. Day 1 started at 8 in the morning. I called the first credit card company while drinking my coffee, my hand surprisingly steady as I dialed. "Hi," I said when the representative answered. "I need to report fraudulent activity on my account." The process was easier than I expected. I explained that I'd added authorized users who had violated the terms of their access, making purchases without my permission, and maxing out available credit. I had documentation if they needed it. They assured me they'd start an investigation immediately. "Would you like to freeze the account?" the representative asked. "Yes," I said, effective immediately. I repeated the process with the second card company, then the third. By 9:30, all 3 cards were frozen, under investigation, and my parents' access was terminated. I imagined my mother at Target, cart full of things she didn't need, card declining at checkout. The thought made me smile into my coffee. Day 2, I tackled the mortgage. I called the loan servicing company and asked to speak to a supervisor. When I explained that I'd been making payments on a loan I wasn't a borrower on, that I'd been sending money as a gift that I was no longer able to continue, they were sympathetic but clear. "You'll need to submit that in writing," the supervisor said. I'd already drafted the letter with Rachel's help. I sent it via email and certified mail just to cover all my bases. To whom it may concern. Effective immediately, I am ceasing all financial contributions to the mortgage account for the property located at 1847 Maple Street. I am not a borrower on this loan and have no legal obligation to continue payments. Any automatic payments from my accounts should be canceled immediately. Please direct all future correspondence regarding this account to the actual borrowers. I hit send and felt a chain snap loose from around my chest. Day 3 was the car. This one was trickier because I actually was on the loan, but Rachel had pointed out that my parents had missed 3 payments before I took over, payments I'd secretly stopped making 4 months ago to build documentation of their failure to pay. The car was already flagged for repossession. I just needed to authorize it. I called the repo company directly, explained that I was the primary on the loan, that the vehicle was in possession of someone who'd defaulted on payments, and that I wanted it recovered. "We can have someone there within 48 hours, they said. "Perfect," I replied. Between phone calls and emails, I felt something building in my chest. Not guilt, though I kept waiting for it. Not regret. It was something else entirely, something that felt suspiciously like freedom. Every click felt like cutting a chain. Every confirmation email felt like breathing for the first time in 7 years. On day 3, after I'd confirmed the car repossession was scheduled, I sat down and wrote my own note. I used nice cardstock, not as expensive as my mother's monogrammed stationery, but nice enough. I wanted them to feel the weight of it when they held it in their hands. "Mom, Dad, Madison," I wrote. "I received your note about the wedding. You're right, my presence would make things awkward, especially since I've decided to focus on my life now. Effective immediately. Mortgage. Find a new payer. Car. Check your driveway in 48 hours. Credit cards. Frozen and reported. You taught me a valuable lesson. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. You had 32 years to show me I mattered. You chose not to. Enjoy the wedding. I'll be enjoying my freedom." I signed it simply E. I put it in a black envelope, the color felt appropriate, and mailed it. They'd get it the day before the wedding. The timing was intentional. After I dropped it in the mailbox, I stood there on the sidewalk for a moment, letting the evening air cool my flushed cheeks. A woman walking her dog smiled at me as she passed, and I smiled back, and it occurred to me that I hadn't genuinely smiled in weeks. I pulled out my phone and texted my group chat. 5 women I'd met through a book club 3 years ago who'd become my actual support system. "I did it," I typed. "Cut them all off. Every single financial tie." The responses came immediately. Rachel. "Finally. Proud of you." Jessica. "About damn time. Drinks this weekend to celebrate?" Mika. "You're a badass. How do you feel?" I stared at that last question. How did I feel? Terrified, I typed back. But also free. Is that weird? Mika responded immediately. "Not even a little bit. That's called healing." The weekend before Madison's wedding, my phone started blowing up. It started with my mom, 3 calls in a row that I let go to voicemail, then my dad, then Madison. By Sunday evening, I had 47 missed calls, 23 text messages, and 15 voicemails. I listened to exactly one voicemail just to confirm what I already knew. It was Madison, her voice shrill with panic. "Emma, what the hell did you do? Mom just told me the mortgage payment bounced, and Dad's car is gone. The bank called about the credit cards and they're saying fraud investigation? Are you insane? You're ruining my wedding. How can you be so selfish?" I deleted the voicemail, blocked her number. Then I blocked my parents' numbers too. Selfish. That word sat heavy in my mind. I'd spent 7 years being the opposite of selfish, and it had gotten me excluded from a wedding I'd partially funded. Now that I'd finally chosen myself, I was the villain. The math wasn't mathing, but I was done trying to solve their equations. I texted back on the group thread. "They're melting down. 47 missed calls. Rachel. Don't answer. Not one. Let them sit with the consequences. Jessica. Block them if you haven't already." "I already did," I replied. Mika sent a gif of someone throwing confetti with the caption, "Boundaries Queen." On Madison's wedding day, I woke up at 9, made myself French toast, and went to a spa I'd been wanting to try for months but could never afford. I got a massage, a facial, and my nails done. I spent $200 on myself without guilt for the first time in years. While I was getting my massage, Madison was probably walking down the aisle. While I was choosing a nail color, she was probably cutting the cake. While I was paying for services that made me feel human again, she was probably realizing that all the family drama had cast a shadow over her perfect day. I didn't post about my spa day. Didn't even take photos. I just existed in that space, letting someone take care of me for once, and it felt revolutionary. That evening, I met my friend group for dinner at a nice Italian place downtown. We shared a bottle of wine, laughed until my stomach hurt, and nobody asked me to explain myself or justify my choices. They just celebrated me for finally choosing me. On the way home, I posted a single Instagram story, a photo of my coffee cup next to a book taken from my apartment balcony, with the caption, "Peace is priceless." Within an hour, I got a text from my cousin Rachel. Different Rachel, my actual cousin who'd always been kind to me. She'd been at the wedding. "I saw your post," she wrote. For what it's worth, the wedding was tense. Your mom looked stressed the entire time. Madison cried during the toasts, and not in a good way. Everyone could feel something was off. Some of us have been wondering what happened. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I appreciated the message, but I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to explain myself to extended family, wasn't ready for the inevitable judgment and the he said she said that would follow. Instead, I opened my laptop and did something I'd been thinking about for days. I started a blog. It was anonymous, no names, no identifying details, just my story and my truth. I titled the first post, "How I Became My Family's ATM and How I Finally Closed the Account." I wrote for 2 hours, everything pouring out in a way it never had before. The relief was physical, like lancing a wound and letting the poison drain. I hit publish at midnight, not expecting anyone to read it, but by morning I had 300 views and dozens of comments. "This is my life right now," one comment read. "Thank you for showing me I'm not crazy. I cut off my parents last year and still feel guilty," another said. "This helped." "You gave me courage," wrote a third. "I'm drafting my own boundary letter tonight." I read every comment, tears streaming down my face, realizing that I wasn't alone in this, that there were thousands, maybe millions of people who'd been taught that family meant obligation, that love meant sacrifice, that saying no made you selfish. We'd all been carrying the same weight, believing we were the only ones. 2 weeks after Madison's wedding, I got served. A process server showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon, handing me an envelope that made my receptionist's eyes go wide. Inside was a lawsuit. My parents were suing me for breach of verbal contract and emotional distress, claiming I'd promised to support them financially and had reneged on that promise, causing them severe hardship. The dollar amount they were seeking? $120,000. I sat in my car in the parking garage and called Rachel immediately. "They're suing me," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "For keeping my promises, apparently." "Send me the documents," she said. "I'll handle this." Within an hour, she'd reviewed everything and called me back, and I could hear the barely suppressed laughter in her voice. "Emma, this is the dumbest lawsuit I've seen in my entire career, and I once had a client sued by their neighbor for playing music at 3 in the afternoon. Your parents' attorney is either incompetent or didn't get the full story. What do you mean? They're claiming you made verbal promises of financial support. But you have 7 years of documentation showing you paid everything voluntarily as gifts. And more importantly, they committed credit card fraud. If we go to court with this, they're not just going to lose the case. They could face criminal charges." I felt something unclench in my chest. "So, what do? "We write a very polite letter explaining exactly how screwed they are if they proceed," she said. "Then we wait for them to drop it." Rachel drafted a response that was a masterpiece of legal intimidation wrapped in professional courtesy. She outlined every payment I'd made, attached the 47-page documentation of credit card fraud, included statements from the banks confirming the fraud investigations, and finished with a paragraph that basically said, "Drop this immediately or face felony charges." We sent it certified mail. 3 days later, Rachel got a call from my parents' attorney. "My clients would like to withdraw their complaint," he said stiffly. "Smart choice," Rachel replied. They dropped the lawsuit that afternoon. No apology, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Just a quiet withdrawal and the sound of their legal threats evaporating. I didn't gloat. I didn't call them to rub it in. I just felt tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of defending myself. Tired of proving that I had a right to my own life and my own money. But the lawsuit had consequences beyond the courtroom. Word spread through the extended family like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion about what I'd done. My Aunt Susan called me, her voice dripping with disappointment. "How could you do this to your parents, after everything they've done for you?" "What exactly have they done for me?" I asked, genuinely curious. She sputtered. "They raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head." "Until I was 18, I said, which is literally the legal requirement of being a parent. "What have they done for me in the 14 years since then? Besides take my money?" She hung up on me. I blocked her number. My Uncle Mike took a different approach. He sent me a long email about forgiveness and family bonds and how holding grudges only hurts yourself. He signed it, "With love and concern." I replied with a single line. Forgiveness doesn't require me to set myself on fire to keep them warm. Then I blocked his email too, but not everyone turned against me. My cousin Rachel, the one who'd texted me after the wedding, reached out again. "Can we meet for coffee?" she wrote. "I want to hear your side." We met at a cafe downtown on a Saturday morning. She listened while I talked for an hour straight, barely touching my latte, and when I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I had no idea it was that bad." Nobody did. "That's because I hid it," I said. I was ashamed. I thought if I could just be good enough, helpful enough, they'd eventually see me as more than an ATM. "You know what my mom said after the wedding?" Rachel asked. "She said your mom seemed distracted the whole time. Kept checking her phone, having whispered conversations with your dad. Madison snapped at them during the reception. It was awkward." "Good," I said, "and I meant it." Rachel smiled. "The family's splitting over this, you know. My mom and her sisters are on your side. They're pissed at your parents. Aunt Susan and Uncle Mike are the only ones defending them. And honestly, everyone knows those two are sanctimonious jerks anyway." That actually made me feel better. Not because I wanted the family to fracture, but because it meant I wasn't crazy. Other people saw it too. Meanwhile, Madison's perfect marriage was already showing cracks. I heard through the grapevine, through Cousin Rachel, who'd become my inside source, that Madison and Trevor were fighting. A lot. The wedding drama had put a strain on things. Trevor's parents had started asking questions about family dynamics, concerned about the kind of family their son was marrying into. Madison resented our parents for driving me away, which was rich considering she'd been complicit in my exclusion. But apparently, the stress of the wedding, combined with the financial chaos my departure had caused, had made everything implode in ways she hadn't anticipated. They started marriage counseling at month 3, 3 months into marriage, and they were already in therapy. I felt bad for her for about 5 seconds. Then I remembered the note, and the feeling passed. My parents' situation deteriorated rapidly without my financial support. They'd been living beyond their means for years, propped up by my money. When that disappeared, reality hit hard. The house went into foreclosure proceedings within 2 months. They tried to refinance again, but their credit was destroyed, partially from the fraud investigation, partially from years of mismanagement. No bank would touch them. They were forced to sell. They downsized from their 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood to a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex near the highway. I heard my mom cried for a week. My dad, at 64 years old, had to take a part-time job at Home Depot. The man who'd spent 7 years letting his daughter pay his mortgage was suddenly wearing an orange apron and helping customers find the right size screws. My mom's shopping addiction got exposed in the process of downsizing and dealing with debt. My dad insisted she go to financial counseling as a condition of staying together. She went, resentfully, and came home with homework assignments about budgeting and impulse control. I learned all of this through Rachel, who heard it from her mom, who still talked to my mom occasionally. I didn't ask for updates, but Rachel seemed to think I needed to know. "Does it make you feel guilty?" she asked once. "No," I said, surprising myself with how true it was. "It makes me sad that it took this for them to face reality. But guilty? No. I'm not responsible for the mess they made." 1 year after I cut ties, my parents sent me a letter. Not my mom's fancy monogrammed stationery this time. Plain white paper, my dad's handwriting. "Emma," it started. "We know you don't want to hear from us, but we need to say some things. We've had a lot of time to think this past year. Losing the house, the financial struggles, watching Madison's marriage strain under the weight of family drama. It's made us look at ourselves differently. We took advantage of you. We can see that now. We treated you like you existed to solve our problems instead of as our daughter. We prioritized Madison because she was easier, more fun, less complicated. You were reliable, so we relied on you until there was nothing left to rely on. We're not asking you to forgive us. We don't deserve that, but we want you to know that we see it now. We see what we did. We see what we lost. We hope you're doing well. We hope you're happy. You deserve to be." With regret, Dad and Mom, I read the letter 3 times, sitting on my couch with my cat purring beside me. It was the most honest thing they'd ever written to me. No excuses, no justifications, no requests. Just acknowledgement. I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to, and maybe I never would be. But I kept it. 2 days later, Madison called. I'd unblocked her number a few months prior, curious if she'd ever reach out. She had once a drunk dial at 2 in the morning that I'd ignored. This time, she called at a reasonable hour and I answered. "Emma," she said, her voice small. "Can we talk?" "I'm listening," I said. "I'm sorry." She started crying immediately. "I'm so sorry for everything. For the wedding, for the note, for treating you like you didn't matter. You deserved better. You deserved so much better." I waited. I'd learned that silence made people either commit to honesty or reveal their manipulation. With Madison, I genuinely didn't know which it would be. "I've been in therapy," she continued. "Individual therapy, not just couples counseling. My therapist helped me see how toxic our family dynamics were. How Mom and Dad pitted us against each other, made you the responsible one and me the special one. I benefited from that system, so I never questioned it, but it was wrong. It hurt you, and I was part of that." "Okay," I said. "I know I can't undo what happened. I know one apology doesn't erase years of taking you for granted, but I want to try. If you're willing, I want to know my sister, not the ATM our parents made you into." I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but something softer than the anger I'd been carrying. "I appreciate the apology," I said slowly. "I'm not ready for a relationship, but I'm open to hearing you if you've done real work on yourself. No promises." "That's fair," she said, sounding relieved. That's more than fair. Thank you. We hung up and I sat there processing. Was I being naive? Maybe, but I'd spent a year learning to trust my instincts, and my instincts said Madison's apology was genuine. Time would tell. 6 months later, Madison and I met for coffee. It was awkward at first, both of us unsure how to talk to each other without the weight of family dysfunction crushing every conversation. Trevor and I are doing better, she said. Therapy helped, but it also made me realize how much I didn't know about healthy relationships, about boundaries and communication, and not expecting someone to fix your problems for you. Sounds familiar? I said dryly. She laughed, a little sadly. Yeah. I'm basically learning everything you already knew. We met for coffee once a month after that. Small steps. No forced intimacy, no pressure to be best friends. Just two sisters learning how to exist in each other's lives without toxicity. Meanwhile, my life was transforming in ways I couldn't have imagined. The extra $2,500 a month I wasn't sending to my parents changed everything. I paid off my student loans within 6 months, started a serious investment portfolio, began looking at condos. 10 months after cutting ties, I bought a place. A small 2-bedroom condo with a balcony overlooking a park. It was mine. Only my name on the mortgage, only my money in the down payment, only my furniture inside. I threw a housewarming party and invited my friend group, Cousin Rachel, and yes, Madison. It felt like a reclamation of what family could be. People who showed up because they wanted to, not because they needed something. Work improved too. The confidence I'd gained from setting boundaries with my family translated into setting boundaries at work. I started saying no to projects that didn't serve my career goals. I negotiated a raise. I got promoted to senior analyst. My boss pulled me aside after the promotion announcement. I don't know what changed with you this past year, she said, but you've been on fire. More assertive, more confident. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I started dating too. Nothing serious at first, just getting back out there after years of telling myself I was too busy or too broke to date. But then I met David at a friend's birthday party. He was a high school teacher, kind and funny and completely unimpressed by displays of wealth or status. On our third date, he asked me what I wanted from life, and I realized nobody had asked me that in years. I want to matter to people I care about, I said. I want to build something that's mine. I want to stop apologizing for taking up space. He smiled. Those are good wants. 6 months into dating David, I finally felt like I understood what a healthy relationship looked like. He never asked me for money, never expected me to solve his problems, never made me feel like my worth was tied to what I could provide. He just liked me, for me. It was revolutionary. Around the same time, my anonymous blog started gaining serious traction. What had started as a personal outlet had grown into a community of thousands of people sharing their stories of cutting ties with toxic family members. I posted regularly, stories from readers, advice on setting boundaries, resources for therapy, and legal help. The comment sections became support groups. People found each other there, realized they weren't alone. One woman wrote, "I've been making my parents' car payments for 3 years while they tell me I'm ungrateful. Your blog gave me permission to stop." Another, "I'm a man whose family expects me to fund everyone because I'm the successful one. I thought that was just how it worked. Thank you for showing me it doesn't have to be." The stories poured in. Daughters funding parents' retirements, sons paying siblings' rent, people in their 30s and 40s still trying to earn love through financial support. I realized my story wasn't unique. It was endemic. And talking about it, naming it, refusing to accept it as normal, that was helping people. 2 years after cutting ties, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. My own wedding. David proposed on a random Tuesday evening while we were cooking dinner together. No elaborate setup, no public performance. Just him, me, and a simple question. "Will you build a life with me?" I said yes. We planned a small ceremony, 30 people. All people we chose. People who'd shown up for us, people who made our lives better by being in them. I invited my friend group, Cousin Rachel and her family, a few co-workers who'd become genuine friends, David's family who'd welcomed me with open arms and never once asked me for anything but my company. I invited Madison. She RSVP'd yes and sent a heartfelt note. I'm honored to be there. I did not invite my parents. It was the easiest decision I'd made in the entire planning process. There was no guilt, no second guessing, no dramatic internal debate. They'd shown me who they were. I believed them. The night before the wedding, Madison called me. "Are you sure about Mom and Dad?" she asked gently. "I know what they did. I'm not saying they deserve to be there. I'm just asking if you're sure." "I'm sure," I said. "This day is about me and David and the life we're building. They don't get to be part of that. Maybe someday, if they do real work, we can talk. But not now. Not yet." "Okay," she said. "I just wanted to make sure you wouldn't regret it." "I won't," I said, and I meant it. The wedding was perfect, small and intimate and full of people who actually cared about us. My friend Rachel officiated. Jessica and Mika were my bridesmaids. David's brother was his best man. When it came time for speeches, Cousin Rachel stood up and said something that made me cry. "Emma has taught me that family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who shows up. And looking around this room, I see a family that showed up for her. That's everything." We didn't do a traditional parent dance. Instead, David and I danced with our whole friend group in a chaotic, joyful mess of people who loved us. I knew my parents would hear about the wedding. Cousin Rachel's mom would tell my mom, and the information would spread through the family network. They'd see photos on social media. They'd know they weren't there. I didn't post about it to hurt them. I posted because I was happy, and I'd stopped hiding my happiness to protect other people's feelings. 3 days after the wedding, I got an email from my mom. The subject line was just, "The photos." "Emma," the email read, "I saw your wedding photos on Facebook. You looked beautiful. David seems like a good man. I'm glad you're happy. I wish we could have been there. I understand why we weren't. But I wish things were different. I hope someday you'll give us a chance to show you we've changed. No expectations, no demands, just hope. Congratulations on your marriage. Love, Mom." I showed the email to David. He read it quietly and then looked at me. "How do you feel?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to believe they've changed. Part of me thinks this is just another manipulation." "You don't have to decide right now," he said. "You can just sit with it." So I did. I didn't respond. I didn't block her. I just let the email exist and focused on my honeymoon, my marriage, my life. 6 months after my wedding, I was at a coffee shop working on my laptop when a young woman approached me nervously. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Emma? From the Boundaries blog?" I was careful about anonymity, but I'd started doing occasional meetups for readers in my city. She must have been at one. "I am," I said. She started crying. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "I just wanted to thank you. I've been paying my mom's rent for 4 years. Reading your blog gave me the courage to stop. I moved out last month. For the first time in my life, I'm living in a place that's just mine." I stood up and hugged her, this stranger who felt like a sister in all the ways that mattered. "You did that," I told her. "I just told my story. You're the one who chose yourself." After she left, I sat back down and looked at my laptop screen, at the draft of my next blog post. The title was, "Walking Away Isn't Cruelty, It's Survival." I thought about the woman who'd just left, about the thousands of people who read my blog, about Madison slowly rebuilding herself, about my parents living with the consequences of their choices. I thought about the note they'd sent me 2 years ago, telling me I wasn't welcome at Madison's wedding. The note that had changed everything. And I realized something. They'd done me a favor. That note had forced me to see the truth I'd been avoiding for years. It had pushed me to value myself, to set boundaries, to choose my own life over their expectations. They thought they were cutting me out. Instead, they set me free. I pulled out my phone and opened a voice memo, wanting to capture the thought while it was fresh. "They left me a note saying I wasn't welcome," I said into the phone. "I left them a life lesson they'll never forget. I am not a backup plan. I am not an ATM. I am not a doormat. I am a woman who knows her worth and walks away from anyone who doesn't." I saved the memo and added it to my draft post. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone, I typed at the end. Drop a comment telling me what boundary you need to set. And remember, you're not selfish for choosing yourself. You're finally being fair to the person who deserved your loyalty all along. You. I hit publish and closed my laptop. David came home an hour later and found me on the balcony watching the sunset over the park. "Good day?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Really good day," I said. And it was. It really was.